Hello, me again. And today we are looking at Sheriff and Priest by Nicky Moxey. And it's a charming book. I really enjoyed it. It's quite... so I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't read Nicky's work before. And I wasn't quite sure what the book would be about. I don't like to do loads of research before I read a book. I like to just take it as I find it. So it's a very gentle book, and it's the life story, really, of... we meet him as a young child living in a awkward situation with a sort of with a violent older brother who pretty much owns him. We're way back in history, and he's luckily taken in by a priest to go to the church school because he's a very bright boy. And really it's just his life story, but what's really clever, and I later discovered that Nicky is an archaeologist, and that really comes through in the book, that passion for history and that authenticity of the story. It's not a period I know a huge amount about, although I love history, as you'll know. So it's, although the story itself is quite gentle, it's obviously set within the kind of trauma of the time. There's as usual in Britain, there's fighting over the throne. There are several potential families, mixing in to try and make their member the king or queen, as it happens. And this young boy, as he matures, he gets offered a job with a very awkward man, because he's a very affable young fella. He's very devout, so he takes his faith very seriously. He's very bright, he can do the books and things, and so he gets promotion, and he's a very likeable character. And it's this lovely mix of his own personal life story, his struggles. He's excommunicated at one point, but what's really clever is that each of his individual situations are kind of mirrored by the situation of England at that time. And so it's a really clever way to link together. So his situation with the church is obviously inherently linked to the situation of the church at the time, and the power that Thomas à Becket had, and the various sort of machinations of the church, and the impact that they have on him, and the impact that has on his personal faith. He believes in a God, but he doesn't necessarily share. One of the big things is he has to preside over ordeals, which is one of the ways that you would do something. It's actually quite hard to read. You'd make two people complete an ordeal, and whoever lived or wasn't hideously disfigured, God had chosen that they were the ones. Now he has a big problem with that. He doesn't think actually that is how God works, and that the right person doesn't always come through that. And so he has these really personal challenges, but they're very evocative of the time and lots of questions people were asking. And so it's fascinating to read. It's enjoyable to read because you want to find out about him. It has a beautiful thread through it that comes to a completely lovely circle at the end, and I really enjoyed that. And it's not twee at all that it has this lovely end, and it just rounds off the story brilliantly. I don't want to give too much away. I really enjoyed it. It's very gentle, as I say, and yet full of drama and tension, and really fascinating history of our country, or my country. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would definitely read more of Nicky's work, because she has a real love of history, and that really comes through. And that detail, I think, they build a church and they build a castle, and just I found it fascinating to read about how that happened, and I completely trusted that was authentic. That is how they did it in those days, because of the quality of the writing. It gave me that confidence that this was someone who had taken the time to do their research. So it was educational as well, and a really interesting period. actually. Not one, as I say, I know a huge amount about. So I found it quite captivating to read, and I hope you do too.